You are listening to the CWL podcast. Are you ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear CWL. Happy birthday to you.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Creative Women's League podcast. My name is HollyAnne Knight. I'm not Kate, in case you were freaking out and thinking that she sounded funny. I am over at String and Story, where it's my job to guide you to quote with confidence. And I'm here with Kate. Don't panic. She's here.
I'm here.
But we're talking about Kate today. And it is the 1 year podcast anniversary of the CWL. And we are celebrating by hearing about our amazing Kate, who we love and we know, but we want to know better. So, hi, Kate.
Hi. I didn't pay her to do that intro, I swear. Well, I sound weird too because anybody who's been following will know that I have been really sick. So I sound bizarre as well. So.
Really sick. So, Kate, what are you sick with? Do you have the plague?
Oh, my God. Well, at first I thought it was strep because my throat was like closing up because of my tonsils. And then after almost a week of being sick, I just realized it's a sinus infection or migrated to a sinus infection probably. So I'm finally on antibiotics.
Just to emphasize to people how much we talk and how we are just connected at this point, girl, I totally had sympathy symptoms on Sunday. I woke up with a sore throat and was like, Kate gave me her stuff. And John was like, oh my gosh, Kate's been sick, now you're sick. I was like, wait, no, that's not actually physically possible.
We can't do that. We can't do that. No, but I really appreciate that you were really patient with me yesterday because I'm moving and I'm sick and life has been crazy. So I really appreciate you coming to do this and doing this year episode. How freaking weird is it that this is a year of CWL?
Girl, I'm so excited. I don't remember which episode I jumped in on, but I remember it was early. Yeah. I don't remember how. It was very early. And I remember the first episode I listened all the way to the end where you're like, you're still here? It's over. Go home. And I was like, she's my new best friend.
I wonder how many people have actually heard that all the way at the end. You'll have to listen to it today all the way to the end.
You will. You totally will. Because it's like the bonus scene at the end of Avengers, but it's every episode. and I listen to it every time, and I'm just like, that's what I knew. Kate and I were meant to be.
Well, and you do what I do, because you put it on your story before. Every time I hear the opener, I dance to it.
Yep.
And so you put it on your Instagram story one day that you were dancing to it, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. At least one other person feels the way I do about that song.
My kids do too. My kids will dance to it.
They're so sweet.
If they're around. It's really great.
I love those boys. They're so sweet.
They're cute 90% of the time. Yeah. And the other 10% of the time they're tired, and so it doesn't count.
I just got fur babies, so.
Yeah. We have some of them too, but it's okay. Anyway, hey, we want to hear about the fur babies. That would be great too. But I want to take us back in time. I need to insert sound effects here of going back in time. Let's go back to when Kate graduated from high school, because I feel like the CWL has its roots back there, and I want to hear how this thing has grown and developed through your very adventurous, very humorous life.
Oh, man. And it really, this is so weird. First off, I have to say, I did not think I would be nervous about this. I have been so nervous about this. It is so weird to be on the other side. So forgive me if I am a terrible interviewee, because I don't know what to do. But it really...
I'm drinking wine and making this up as we go, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, I love this. This is going to be great. This is going to be a great episode. But it's funny because when I graduated high school, I had no plan. Absolutely none. And the CWL really does have its roots all the way back then, because I had always wanted to, I don't remember exactly when podcasts started, but I started listening to them almost immediately. And I was one of those people who always wanted to start a YouTube channel, always kind of had a dream to have a podcast and stuff, but that just wasn't me. That wasn't what my family did. We weren't really go out on a limb people. We weren't even though I was very outgoing and, very I've always had a huge personality, and I've always been, very extra in the way that I dress and all these things that I
love
like.
How extra you are.
Yeah. I've always been very extra about it. In that way, I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do anything. And I didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of high school at all. So I went to work. Yeah. And
I love it. Yeah. Where did you go to work, Kate?
The first one that I looked for jobs. Oh, because I was a weird kid, right? I was okay with being a weird kid, and I steered into being a really weird kid. So like my first car was like a gunmetal gray Volvo with red leather interior. And it was as old as I was. It was 1989.
I like knew people with this car.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I called it the armadillo because if you cut it in half, it would look like an armadillo. Officially, his name was Mr. Beaumont. But, yeah.
You're going to have to cut out my hyperventilation here because that's really funny.
We might have to cut out my coughing too, so whatever.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, yours too.
My cough hasn't quite gone away.
But yeah, so I just steered into being weird. So I wouldn't accept just any job. I wanted a weird job. And I found a weird job. I went to...
Well, and you live in Orlando, so the market was right
the market,
for
actually,
you.
That's so true. That is so true. I went to be it's so funny. I haven't told people this. I went to be a face character at Disney. To work in entertainment there. But being a girl from Colorado and not knowing what the cult of Disney was like, and I say that with the most love because I love Disney, but it is a cult of Disney, and these people were performers their whole lives. I was just a girl who stumbled in and was like, I think it'd be fun to like work on the street at Disney. Like, I didn't realize like,
you want me to do that?
Yeah. So I failed miserably at that audition. You have to go in and do an audition to be an actor at Disney or anything.
Which is so funny because I think you would be like a perfect Little Mermaid, for the record.
Yeah. So my mom was like, you are Snow White, go do it. Okay, I am too tall.
That would work too.
Oh, at 5'7", I am like, I might as well be 6'7". I am too tall. I was too in between, and I was too terrified. I didn't know what it was going to be like. So anyway, I went and did that. I failed miserably. I left and was just like, get out of here. Get out of here. Mom, go home. But I did get a job being a face painter at Disney, and that's through like a contract. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And every day the parade would go by because I was at Animal Kingdom. The parade would go by right in front of the safari, and I would dance every day. And every day they told me, you're going to get sick of this. You're going to hate it. I didn't get sick of it once for the whole time.
How long were you there? Like, what is the shelf life of your face painter job?
As an 18-year-old girl who is a weirdo and now cannot even have highlights in her hair because she works at Disney, my shelf life was 4 months.
Hey, that's pretty good.
The 4 hottest months of the year. I worked for the summer, and then right as it started to cool down, I quit and went to work at a coffee shop because that was more me, really, at the time.
Yeah. And the summer kind of party season had passed. You like enjoyed the 4-month party.
That's true. You know,
then it was time to,
I really did just want to be the girl with the blue hair and the nose ring at the coffee shop, and that's what I went and did.
Hey, that's awesome. I love it.
But I was always like aimless, I guess. Like just aimless. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I worked my butt off. Like I was always there. I was working. I'd go easily work 60 hours a week at the coffee shop. I was not afraid of working. I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
You have a crazy work ethic.
Yeah.
Like anyone who has not noticed this, Kate has an amazing work ethic, and
thank
all
you.
of our children should aspire to have a work ethic like Kate.
No.
We should have aspire to this.
Thank you.
Your work ethic is crazy.
Thank you. I just told somebody the other day, I was like, I have to work a lot because I have a tendency to be lazy. And she spit out her drink and was like, lazy? Are you kidding me? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I feel lazy. I don't know.
No.
I feel like it, but
no.
So it wasn't that,
No.
like, I wasn't afraid of like work. I just did not know what I wanted to do. And I think in retrospect, it's because I knew I was capable of so much more, but I was so afraid to take that leap into what so much more would actually look like.
Well, and what are you going to do? Like, go to Florida State and major in creative entrepreneurship? Like,
yeah,
what?
that wasn't,
like,
yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think something that I love about your story is that you were brave enough to not go to 4-year school.
Well,
because,
I didn't.
You at least knew enough to take a year off, and we'll see where this is headed. But like,
I did think.
So where's it headed? Because maybe I stumbled onto something.
Well, it was a blunder.
You're brave enough to pause. That takes a huge amount of courage. Let's just
and it was.
That.
And my parents were very. I have wonderful parents. I lived with my mom and my stepdad, but my stepdad came into my life at such a young age, and he just like signed up for the job and was my dad. So calling him my stepdad isn't fair. Like, he is my dad. He's a wonderful, even to this day, he just helped us move in, and I have a rental house with Brad and my sister Tori, and he's like, we're gonna re-landscape everything. Like, he's so cute and supportive. So, shout out to John. But
woohoo!
Yeah, I was talking to actually a friend, Tatiana, and at the coffee shop, and she's like, I said, oh, I loved face painting. I love doing that. I love makeup, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, why don't you go to school for makeup? And I was like, oh, I guess I could. And this was before, I didn't really have like the internet on my phone. So I went over to the computer and I looked up Joe Blasco School of Makeup, which is right here in Orlando. And I went and did that. Yeah, and that was awesome. That was so much fun. I can make you into a zombie.
Orlando has like a crazy makeup community, don't they?
Yes, because of Joe Blasco. Because of him. He's like, he was like Olivia Newton-John's makeup artist for a long time, and he did all like, he started Halloween Horror Nights. A lot of his prosthetics were what started all that, and all the monsters over at Universal and things like that. He really got those things going for them. So
all the stuff that's like very cool technically, but that I avoid like the plague because I'm afraid of cats.
It was, yes. And it was, I mean, honestly, everybody should be so lucky as to honestly waste as much money as I did. I wasted a lot of money because I haven't used it in any form. But those were the best days of my life going to makeup school. It was like 6 months. Aww. I wasn't allowed to work. I just showed up every day with no makeup on. I met the best man in the world. His name was David Langford. He actually died this past year, I think it was. Oh, it was, I just sat in my room and cried. I was just horrible because he was always so happy and so wonderful. And he had done, really, truly, I just met the coolest people.
I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. But guess what? Being a makeup, so I know how to do everything from beauty makeup to making a full prosthetic. Like, I could make you into a full zombie, even one step above that. I can put you into full, like, prosthetic makeup. I can make a cast.
So you can make me like an Uruk from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And I could fulfill my middle school dreams of being a terrifying evil soldier.
I can absolutely do that.
I wish I were joking that we did this on the playground. We did.
I can totally do that.
Always. Okay, cool.
I can make a bust of your head. I can make the alginate of your face, the bust of your head. I can carve it all out with clay. I can do all of it.
You were such a badass.
It was the most fun ever. But to go be a makeup artist, I had to go tell people I was good at what I did. I had to go jump and either go to head out to LA or be here and really work my butt off to make the most of it. And I just had no confidence to do it. Now, as a 29-year-old, I can look back and just be like, yeah, just turned 29. I can look back and say I was just too chicken shit is what I can say. And that's it. That's the long and short of it. And
how old were you when you were doing that?
I was, fair enough, yeah. I was 20.
Yeah.
I was 20.
I would say your average human has a fair amount of fear at 20.
Yeah, and I don't know if a lot of those girls went and did anything with it for that reason. It was before makeup was, not to sound like a hipster or anything, it was just before makeup, everybody was a makeup artist, right? It was just before those years. So it was probably a couple years before that. So I think now,
that's so true.
Yeah, and I think now a lot of those girls would have just done like YouTube University and like been a makeup artist that way. But at that time, you didn't really have those resources that way. So we all went and played makeup. It was awesome. I did horror movies. There are actually horror movies that I went out and did because Orlando has Full Sail right here.
Yeah. I looked at Full Sail.
Oh, did you?
Fun fact. Well, that was in the middle of my like Lord of the Rings obsession, and I was quite creative. So I wanted to do set design briefly.
Yes.
And then I saw the price tag and was like, that's cute.
Full Sail is
but it's an amazing university. It's an amazing university.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're hardcore wanting to be in the movie industry, like, that's where you should go.
That's
like,
the thing. It's just like anything, right? Like, that is a price tag, and you better be ready to go dive in after. Joe Blasco was a price tag. My mom's heart fell into her butt. My dad never batted an eye. He was like, this is what she wants to do. This is what we're sending her to do. But
that's so cool.
It's so sweet. But yeah, that's that thing, you know, I went and did these movies and I very quickly learned, like, first off, movie sets are very male dominated anyway. I had to go stand toe to toe, and at Full Sail in the movies I worked on, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but a lot of these indie films that you go work on, you have to go toe to toe with somebody who thinks that their vision is the most extraordinary thing ever. They want you to do a bazillion things on no budget. I was not strong enough a person.
Are the people you're going to toe with like other 20-year-olds? Are they students or are they older? Out of curiosity.
A lot of them were older.
Okay.
But not much older. Like they were probably 28 and I'm 20.
So they're still in their like figuring out where they're headed as well.
Yes, and they're working at Full Sail because they can. And this is just the people I worked with. You know, other people have had amazing experiences, and from that they stayed in the industry. I had all the worst experiences and did not keep going with it enough to have the great experiences.
We did you out for greater things, girlfriend.
Yes.
We did you out for greater things.
That's what it is. So so it was like
that's what we're saying.
A lot of the people who I worked with were people who either worked at Full Sail or hung out with people who worked at Full Sail to get their movies made. Because you can use all the equipment, you can do all the So that was my experience.
Fancy. You can make your students get out of bed at 2 a.m. because it's a real movie schedule.
I was in the middle of nowhere, you guys, at 3 o'clock in the morning, crying because he's like, you have to make this head explode. He gave me $1,000 budget. One tiny prosthetic can easily cost $1,000. He gave me $1,000 for a full movie. I'm at Walmart in Lake Mary in the middle of nowhere.
Like, oh my gosh, that's like just, it's you and the red bugs, man.
It is me and the red bugs. I'm crying in a Walmart at 3 a.m. trying to decapitate a person for this horror movie, like.
Oh. There's our soundbite for this episode. Being in the Walmart trying to decapitate.
That's it. I had to decapitate somebody, and oh my gosh, we had to rip off a girl's jaw for this scene. Like, yeah, a demon ripped off a girl's jaw because, of course, there's kids. They get stuck in the woods. You know, all those things. And there's demons.
Oh my gosh.
So the demons ripped off the girl's jaw, but I have to tell this story really quick. They didn't tell me. So I got the jaw through my prosthetics teacher. He is like, oh, jaw ripping off is like the cool thing right now. So I have jaws that I can give you. So I was like, thank you, Mr. Rick. And he gave us a jaw. And, but they didn't tell me how her head would be oriented. It turned out that, so I put in all the, fake blood so it can gush everywhere. And I've got like a bug spray thing, like canister, so I can pump the blood out. So I'm standing off camera, pumping this blood. Her jaw is getting ripped off. And they didn't tell me that her head was going to be upside down. So the blood, I'm pumping blood and blood's not going anywhere. The blood is going right up into her nose. And I am essentially drowning a woman on camera. I know. And
how did they figure out she was drowning?
She finally, I think she just snorted it out of her nose. So it starts spewing and things are happening and she falls to the ground and it's 2 seconds anyway, but she's livid, obviously. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know at that last minute, they're going to tilt your head back. So I put the tubes in the wrong. I mean, these are the things a makeup artist has to think of. I went on, we cut for that day. I think we were done with shooting at that point. I don't remember.
Oh my God.
I just remember that the next day I was on a cruise and my best friend, we left on a cruise. I was gone for 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And my best friend goes, so you're going to start making movies? And with a drink in my hand, I said, nope. Nope. But that sets me.
Like, I almost drowned the lady with I'm done.
No. I have almost drowned a person today. I have already cried in a Walmart.
Decapitation, right. If you cried in a Walmart, it's all over.
I cried in a Walmart. I almost drowned a woman. And no, I'm done.
You're done. Yeah.
So, yeah. So that sets me.
So what happened? So you have this epiphany that this is not for you. Then what happens?
Well, I decide that that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do. What'll make it better?
You didn't want to decapitate people for the rest of your life. I just,
Well, I decide what'll make it better is if there's no work here, Mom. Right? That's what I keep saying. There's no work here, Mom, and I don't want to go out to LA. So, I'm going to, and at this point, I don't know. Yeah, I've got to be like 21 at this point, like messing around, working back at the coffee shop, like doing a couple years of that. I'm a nanny for a little while.
Nannying is the best gig. Just total sidebar.
Was the best gig of my life.
Nannying is the best gig. It's the best gig.
I nannied for a woman who was actually older than I was. She had cerebral palsy and a learning disability. And she was my best friend. She was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Her name was Amber. Amber is the love of my family's life. She got fudged over with a really crappy family. But we were her family for a while, and that was the most wonderful thing I've ever done. It really was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was short-lived, but we got to go do field trips to Tampa, and she'd come stay with us for a week at a time and things like that. But yeah, nannying is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, because I nannied all the way through high school and college, and then actually after college briefly. And the kids that I nannied while I was in high school were like half my wedding party because we were family. Yes. Like by the time you spend that much time with someone, like family.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. So that was wonderful. And that led, there was a point when I was 21 where I took a vacation to Syracuse and decided I was moving to Syracuse.
Where is Syracuse for those of us who are only partially Florida literate?
Syracuse is Syracuse, New York. No, I was in Syracuse, New York.
That's
Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
That's why it's not. I lived in Syracuse, New York for 3 months. That is like my home away from home. I don't want to do the snow, but I love Syracuse. That's Hippieville. You've got to come do Syracuse, HollyAnne. You will love it. Love it.
There, girl.
No snow for me. But
yeah, let's do it in the non-snowy season.
We'll do it in the apple picking and the walking.
Yes.
Yeah, walking in the parks with the leaves changing. That's what we'll do that.
I'm okay with a scarf. I'm not okay with a big coat.
No, I'm with you there. I got out of I did 3 months in Syracuse. I got out of there before I still snowflake.
So what took you to Syracuse, of all places? Orlando.
I met and Brad will understand when I say this, but I met my real soulmate, who is Lisa, my best friend. And she walked into the coffee shop and she was like, "Hi, I'm looking for a job." And I was like, "Yep, you're hired." I don't know why I did that.
I know nothing about you, but you're my soulmate.
I just knew,
I have a vague concept of who Lisa is, which just reiterates that I actually recognize that name. Yeah.
Yes. She was just my bestie from that moment. And we went up to Syracuse to visit. She's like, "I want to show you where I'm from." And we were sitting on the lawn of her camp, which is off of Lake Ontario. And I was just like,
my God.
Right? How can I not fall in love with it?
Right.
How can I not fall in love with it? So that's what I did. We went up there and we did odd jobs. I worked at Borders, they put me in the cafe because I had been running a coffee shop with my friends for a long... Nope.
They're not cool?
I cried every day.
I'm thinking like books plus coffee sounds awesome, but maybe not.
It should have been, but they just ran that one so weird. This is the weirdest episode ever. Why am I...
Okay. It's going to be fantastic.
This is just the weirdest episode ever. But yeah.
This is basically like you and me having a date and everyone's going to listen to this.
And just like divulging my whole life story here. But yeah, it was just, Borders sucked just because they ran it terrible. We actually, it's the only job I've ever like, Lisa called me crying. I happened to be in town that day because we had to go 45 minutes to our job to be in town to work and blah, blah, blah. I happened to be in town with some of the people we were living with. And she called me crying. And I was like, get your shit. We're leaving. We're not going back there again. We're done. Yep. They were so mean to her again.
We're done.
Yep. We're done. So it's the only time they never called us. They called us once to see if we were coming back. And then they never called us again because they had 4 people walk out that week. So that's just tells you what that business was like. Yeah. So
for real.
It was fun. But yes.
More leadership.
Yeah, exactly. So we cheered when they went out of business and that stuff. But
that's okay.
But so that leads me into I come back. That was when I was a nanny. Was once I came back, and I got a job at a hair salon, and I go to hair school.
Is this the same? This not the same salon that you're at now?
No, I got a job.
Was there an overlap of like a best friend?
Yes. See, you got this.
I'm trying to connect all these little dots that I have.
You got this. So I started working at what was Nube Nove downtown. It was a high-end salon. It was a very cool salon. Ooh. Yeah, it was awesome. It was wonderful. And slowly just start to, I worked from the front desk to an assistant, and I did that forever. But once again, and the owner, Billy, she's wonderful. She still is a big part of the CWL. But she was too nice to push me over into being a stylist because she was like, no, Kate needs the money. That's my big excuse always. My big excuse always is I can't afford that. I can't afford that. So I always said I can't.
But what would it have taken to make that jump?
Oh, just freaking trying for 2 minutes.
Okay. So there was no like additional anything you needed to do other than just like hiking up the big girl panties.
It was just being brave.
Bravery wedgie and like.
Yes. It was just, I would have had to be an assistant. I worked like 4 12-hour days or something like that. So I would just have to be like, or like 4 10-hour. No, I think it was like 12-hour days, but, it would just be like, no, I worked I told you
it's amazing.
And I always worked, the problem is I always worked harder, not smarter. That was the problem. I was always willing to put in more hours to get a second job, to do whatever, but I was not willing to be brave enough to go to the next level. Not willing to be brave enough to take 2 days a week and struggle those 2 days a week and build my book to become a hairstylist. I had one girl who came in. She loved her haircut. The next girl came in. I failed miserably on her color. I really did. She's like, this doesn't look right. She came back in and let me fix it, and she liked it after that. But to me, all I saw was the failure. And that was
That's so hard.
That's hard.
The inner critic.
Yeah, and all I ever saw was the failure. I never let myself... to be a hairstylist especially... I see it with the people I work with then and the people I work with now. You do have to have an element of effort. Nobody wants to mess up your hair. That is like a total misconception. Right. Like, I feel like people always think hairstylists, like, they aren't listening to me. No, they just probably don't have the skills to do what you need them to do. But nobody likes.
Like, we talk about with creativity, like needing to play and like, when you're a hairstylist or a makeup artist or anything where like your canvas is a human, your medium talks back to you. Oh. Like that would terrify me if I was like playing around in my like sewing room and playing with fabric and trying out new ideas or trying a new piecing technique and like my fabric started talking back to me of like, you're doing it wrong. I don't like this. This isn't what I envisioned for this project. Like,
and once I started, and once I started to come to terms with the fact that I was the problem, to put it so very nicely, one of the things I would tell people is, because I started to realize it towards the end of my time at Nube Nove, because I started to quilt at that time, actually.
Wait, so how did you start quilting in the middle of it? Pause.
Oh God, there's a real story there.
And then I randomly took up fiber art.
Well, there's a real story.
Talk back.
I had always knit. Remember, I really steered into being a weirdo. So in high school, I loved making stuff and being the art kid, but I like to do the weird
knitting
things.
Class. Did you knitting class?
They started.
This is why we're friends.
They started knitting class because of me. Actually, my art teacher started a class called Fabrics and Fibers. And that was all because I hounded her every day to teach me to knit.
That's awesome.
So she started a whole class based around this. And I wish at the time I would have taken that as a big aha moment. I did not.
Right?
No, I should have.
That should have been a huge aha, girl. I mean, I knit my way through college. Like, that's how I made myself a nice human to sit in class, because I'm not very good at sitting in class. And one professor tried to make me stop one day, and the entire class, like, rose up collectively and was like, don't make her stop. She's mean if you make her stop.
Don't make her stop.
I also should have taken that as a pretty good aha moment. Like, maybe I need to be playing with fiber in my life.
Yeah,
but it took a little longer for me to, like, circle back.
My mom tells me a lot, and I hate it now. Like, now I get pissed off at her about it. But about a year ago,
Moms are always right. Darn it.
And I really get mad at her about it. And she says, you really spend a lot of time telling me why you can't do something. I'm like, so at the time I couldn't sew. I didn't know how to sew. Even at the time, I'm sure I said, I don't have time to know how to sew, whatever. But I had done fabrics and fibers, and I had always liked to make stuff with my hands. So I'm at Nube Nove. I started dating a man who lived in Australia.
Yeah.
You're
going to need to explain.
I'm letting that sit for a second.
Okay. We now have like 3 strands of the story braid going. Like the Nube Nove, the quilting, and the boyfriend in Australia.
Yeah. I met him online, not through online dating. I met him online by chance through Instagram. And
the way like people meet each other these days.
Yeah, so weird.
That's how I met you.
Yeah, exactly. So I met him online through Instagram, and we just started talking, and then I realized we really liked each other, blah, blah, blah. It was ultimately, in the end, we dated for about 3 years. He came here a lot.
Did you meet each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
He came here a lot. The problem was, I actually just recently read an article, this is total side note again, about an empath and the narcissist, and how empaths and narcissists will always end up together because the empaths feel bad for the narcissist, and the narcissists love to be felt bad for. So, Yep.
Funny, I know people like that.
Yes. Yeah. So we were the empath and the narcissist. I wanted to fix him and help him, and I knew, and there was a good man inside of him. It took me a long time to realize that was not my job. Anyway.
Right. Because there often is a good man or woman inside the narcissist.
Yes.
But it's not our job to fix them. And that's really hard.
No. And there's going to have to be blog posts about it, because that took me a long time and a lot of heartache to figure out. And like you said, I know a lot of people who are still doing that. And it's because the empaths are genuinely, truly good people. And they want to help.
But it steals, especially if you're a creative empath, it steals your creative energy if you're in a relationship like that with a taker. Mm-hmm. So creative women out there, if you're feeling drained by the people around you.
That's it. That's absolutely it.
Blog posts yet to come.
Yet to come. There have to be. Oh.
There's going to have to be.
I adored him, and he just couldn't. He had to overcome a really crappy childhood. He wasn't doing the steps to overcome that. It was a lot for him. Yeah. But anyway, that's not my problem.
One more related sidebar. If you're listening to this right now and you're going, I think I'm in that relationship, go read the book Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud.
Yes, Boundaries. I never had boundaries.
Yeah. So go read that, and that'll tide you over until there's future blog posts.
Oh, I read actually while I was dating him, or just after, I read the book Codependent No More, I think it is. Codependent No More.
Ooh, I haven't read that one. That sounds super good.
Well, I come from a house, we skipped over Bio Dad, but Bio Dad was an alcoholic. Yeah. And I was very close to him, and that's another empath and narcissist relationship. I loved my dad because I pitied my dad. And that's why all these boyfriends up until Brad have happened.
Well, and
It really has.
You wanted him to be better. You wanted him to be.
I wanted the comeback story.
Like, you know that like meme of like be the person your dog thinks you are.
Yes.
Like, but like you're the dog in that situation, but you're not a dog. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But,
no,
like,
and that's why he wanted me.
You get stuck in that.
Yes, and he believed he wanted to be, right. My mom kept saying,
right,
Kate, he loves you as much as he can. But he can't love you any more than that. He's not capable of it. So you got to make your choices.
It's finite. It's a finite love.
So, but I've recently, I believe everybody is in your life for a reason, even if they do come in and mess stuff up. The reason he was in my life was to get me to Australia. I went to Australia for a month, which was awesome. I got to stay in the suburbs.
Right now.
Yeah, I got to stay in the suburbs, and he would work during the day, so I would like take the train down to the mall and all those wonderful things. So that was awesome. And one of the things was his mom was a quilter.
It's so freaking cool.
He brought quilting into my life. I learned how to quilt on a Bernina in his mom's house.
A huge shout out to all of our Australia quilters, because there's an awesome quilt community in Australia. So,
and
huge holler.
CWL is like the third highest pie on the pie chart. That's my fancy stuff saying that. But we have a huge percentage of listeners in Australia, so thank you. I love you.
That's
guys.
awesome.
I love you.
We love you, Austin.
So,
our friends are there.
But
I'm gonna make it there sometime.
Oh, let's do it. I want to do a CWL tour of Australia. Let's make it happen. Yeah. I'm done. I'm ready. I love it. Okay. So she taught me how to quilt. For the quilters out there, there was Y seams, there was partial seams, there was inset pieces. It was the hardest block to date that I have ever made.
Dang, girl, that's where she started you?
She got halfway. She started it and goes, "Oh dear, what have I done?"
She's just like survival of the fittest in her like teaching technique.
That was
pretty
it.
Much. Okay.
So Neil was in my life for that reason. He brought quilting to. Oh, I just said his name. I don't know if I should have said his name, but Neil was in my life for that reason.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. And Helen was great in that way.
Go Helen.
Go Helen. You helped me out.
We can be Team Helen.
That's cool. So that was it. I came back to the U.S. Helen actually helped me find the Orlando Modern Quilt Guild right from her phone on the train.
That's amazing.
On the way into the city. She helped me find that. I came back. I signed up. I bought all my supplies. I was done. From then on, I was done.
That's awesome. Are you still in the Orlando MQG?
I kind of am. I can't go. Okay. I can't go to the meetings and stuff. So I'm a really crappy member.
I'm like face palming right now because I like it. I love the Orlando MQG. I love following them, and they do awesome stuff. But somehow it never occurred to me to ask you if you were.
Yeah, I have my tote that I can't.
Never connected that dot.
Yeah, I gotta get my Wednesdays free so I can go do that. But yeah, they're wonderful. And that was it. Like Neil was in my life for that.
That's amazing.
And that led me right out of the salon.
And so then where did you go from there?
I went to the quilt shop.
Okay.
And so I started.
How long were you at the quilt shop?
I was at the quilt shop. Because I just wanted to dive into it. But also, guess what?
Right.
I didn't want to take the next step at the. Every time I hit a plateau, I'd get scared and I'd go somewhere else. And this is where I started to realize that. I got out of the bad relationship. I really started to evaluate what I was doing. I still had a ways to go, but I started to evaluate what I was doing and why I was doing those things.
You started seeing patterns in yourself, which is like a huge step. That's a huge step.
I was trying to save Neil because I wanted to save my dad. I was, anytime I kept saying, I started to talk about this earlier, but we've been all over the place. I've been all over the place.
Okay.
I started to tell people, here's the problem with hair. When I knit, I can go into my room, I can knit, and once I'm good at it, I can present it to the world. When I sew, I can go into my room, and once I'm good at it, I can present it to the world. With hair, you can't do that. You have to be crappy at it on people's heads.
This is like both Andy J. Miller, I almost said Andy J. Pizza, which is not actually his name, Andy J. Miller over at Creative Pep Talk. And also Donald Miller talks about it a little bit too, that for comedians, one of the hardest things about being a comedian is the only way to find out if you're funny is to like go try jokes at people and like get tomatoes thrown at your face. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same thing with hair. It's that kind of creativity where it's your only rehearsal is live. Yeah. Like there's no private rehearsal.
And I wasn't willing to do it. I was good at everything I did. And I don't want that to sound, I want people to hear that and not think of it as like how conceited that might be or whatever. I was good at everything I did. I was used to being the golden child. I was used to being somebody who people would go, oh, Kate, she can do whatever, blah, blah, blah. So
and you don't want to mess that up.
Nope, I was not willing to do that.
I don't want to ruin this beautiful record that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody knew that I was terrified to actually be great. I was good at a bunch of things. I was terrified to be great at something because that takes, we all know that. Anybody listening knows that moment where you have to go from, you know, we had the podcast episode where good is the enemy of great because you can rest on good forever. And that's what I did.
You're preaching to the choir, girlfriend.
You are great, so don't leave it. But anyway, the quilt shop, you know, that's almost where we start to meet up with recent CWL history.
Yeah, because I feel like the quilt shop really was the incubator of the CWL in a really big way.
You know, Lisa.
A lot of things have been.
Yeah. Lisa at the quilt shop, she really helped me a butt ton. She really just did. She guided me a lot in a lot of different ways to get
clarification. This is a different Lisa.
Yes, this is Lisa Mullins. Yeah. Yes, this is Lisa. She has a podcast episode. I believe it's episode number 4.
Oh, cool.
Because she just bought a long arm and started long arming, and that was it. A lot like you did, HollyAnne, where you're just like doing it and you just took the leap. And so I had to learn to be brave around her. She would say, do it. And she would leave me to my own devices. And so I had to learn to be brave. I had to learn to back up my decisions. If somebody said, well, why did you do that when I said to do this? Well, here's why I did it. And stand up for myself.
I love it.
Yeah, there was a lot there. And ultimately, this is where you guys start to know the story a little more. I started to become really depressed. I was in another relationship, a different relationship. This one was, I actually met somebody who was a bigger personality than I was somehow. Don't know how I did that. But it really started to depress me. He started to
I'm just laughing, like picturing that.
I know. And it let him, I let him drown me out. This big personality. He made all the choices. He really, now I don't say bullied in that way, not like in a mean way, but he'd be like, no. Yeah. He'd be like, no, this is what we're doing. No, this is how it goes. And I just went with it.
A taker and not a giver. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I had already tried to start a podcast once. I had already, but I didn't want to take the leap. I never emailed somebody. I just wrote about this in the recent, the first blog post ever for the CWL.
So everyone should go check out the blog.
Yeah. That's coming, and it's, we're doing more things there. But, yeah, I was horribly depressed. Horribly. Mm-hmm. And, Lisa really launched this podcast because I said, I'm going to start a podcast. She'd already heard this once. I'm going to start a podcast, and I want you to be on it to talk about how you started this store. And she said, yeah, okay. And not meaning anything by it. She's just a very blunt person. I realized she did not even believe me. And that's who I'd become to a lot of people. I had a lot of great ideas, and I was never going to do anything with them. Yeah.
Because they had watched you in this pattern of learning, growing, plateauing, bailing.
Yep. And they had watched me come up with 1,000. I have a great idea for a quilt book that I had come up with, and I'm going to do this, and I did all the legwork, and then it fell apart. And then I'm going to do this, and I always would get the ideas and stop. So,
and this is not to say that like you have to jump into something and never ever change. Like pivoting and bailing are two different things.
Right. Yes.
And
yes.
Just a quick caveat.
Yes.
Pivots happen a lot to all of us.
Thank you. No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So,
which I feel like there's a blog post there.
That,
like,
yeah,
how to tell
you can
if
write
you're
that.
bailing instead of pivoting. I'm going to have to think about that. Okay, I need to take notes of all the podcasts or all the blogs that I want to write for you
please,
after this conversation.
Please. Everybody, please. But yeah, this is where you guys start to know the story. I got really depressed. I would come home. I would work my butt off at the quilt shop. Actually, I even stopped working my butt off at the quilt shop, really. I started giving them half of what I could give them.
Which, my apologies to Lisa, because that's in huge part how I got to know you, is we started becoming friends about that same time.
Yeah.
And Lisa's time lost was my time gained.
Yeah. I really just started, it was awful. I really lost myself. I lost myself in that relationship. I was in a house I didn't want to be in. I was in a relationship I didn't want to be in. I had a roommate I didn't want to have, a side of town I didn't want to be on, a job that I didn't feel my direction. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Yeah, it was bad.
So what was the breaking point? Because at some point you decided that you had enough of this cycle, or we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No,
so what, in the middle of being depressed and exhausted and scared and overwhelmed, like what was the kind of bolt of lightning that made you stand up and say, I'm sick of this cycle. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm going to do something different. I'm going to pivot instead of bail this time.
I think I had just started drowning so far, and it might have, I don't even really know the exact moment anymore.
Was this when your mom said you spend a lot of time telling me things you can't do?
Yeah, I mean,
or had she been saying that? Okay.
No, I think it was about then.
Had a conversation when you were still at the quilt shop, and you were.
I did. No,
I don't remember if you'd started. You must have started the CWL already, but she said that to you at some point in the last year-ish.
And this was before.
But you were like, HollyAnne, shoot.
She got me good. This was before that, because this was. I'm even thinking of before I started the CWL. I'm thinking of 2017, the start of 2017. And I just was so, honestly, for a real moment of honesty that I don't know that I've said to anybody but you guys now, and it might make me cry because I'm a crier, I wasn't going to make it out of that house alive. And not that I had any plans for anything, not that I just knew that I was drowning. Yeah. I just wasn't, I was a shell of myself. It was a dead end. And not that, like I said, it wasn't like I had plans for anything. It wasn't like I was actively contemplating, I'm going to say it. It wasn't like I was actively contemplating suicide, but I had nothing. I had nothing. I slept all day. I wasn't taking care of my dog that I had gotten from this relationship that I loved so much. I wasn't taking care of the house. I wasn't creating. I wasn't doing anything. And I kept saying like, well, the quilt shops, I'm going to start doing this stuff there. And my mom, I do think she laid it on me at that point. Like, you're going to do a lot of stuff, Kate, and you're never doing it. So what is happening? She was always reminding me of my potential. And I think, and a big part of it, was Brad. I think Brad had met me before I really hit rock bottom. And he really started to see it. Brad actually left, Brad and I met. I knew I was madly in love with him, but we pushed it aside because I was in a relationship and we never did anything. And he went and lived down south for a while. And I was glad because I was like, oh, thank God, just get him out of my head. But he kind of messaged me and he was really just cheering me on. And I saw the deficit between how much he was cheering me on and how much my relationship was sucking out of me. I think there was
Brad's a giver. I think all of us who have heard the episodes you've done with Brad know that Brad is a giver.
He's so wonderful. He'll make me cry for sure. He keeps a list of all the things that make me cry. But
oh my goodness,
it's ridiculous.
That's really cute.
But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Now I'm rambling there for a second, and to be brave with this word, I firmly believe that suicide happens when hope leaves the building. And I think before Brad, you knew that hope had left the building.
I did.
You were hopeless. It was a dead end. And again, sidebar, if you're listening to this and hope has left the building, you can find us on social, and we're gonna talk to you.
To me.
Hope has not.
And
just because you can't see hope doesn't mean it's not there. And I think Brad walked in and pulled back the curtain just enough for you to see like, oh my gosh, there's still light out there. I had no idea. I thought the sun had gone down.
And when you start to, there's a few times in my life where I realized how I would be defined at that moment was not how I defined myself. And anytime there got a big disparity between how I wanted to be defined and how I would actually be defined by people, I corrected. I was like, no. And this was one of those times. I was the happy-go-lucky person. I was the person who made lemonade out of lemons every time. And I was drowning. And you're absolutely right. You know, hope had left the building. I told my mom, and you know, actually, to be totally transparent, this is the quickest turnaround we've ever done on a podcast. We're recording it Tuesday and it's going out tomorrow. Kate Spade killed herself today.
I don't know that I'd even heard that yet.
Kate Spade killed herself today. And those things send chills up my spine because, like I said, I had no plans, but you put it perfect. Hope had left the building. And in those moments, you just don't know. And I never planned for this episode to go this way, so it'll make me cry. But, reach out to HollyAnne and I if you feel this way right now. If you feel like you're drowning and you need some help just getting your head back above water. Because just taking that, Brad helped me get that big breath of air. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing like that big breath of air. There is nothing like it. And, so now we can go to the greener pastures of, I was like, oh, forget this. I am not married. Even if I was, forget this. Yeah. I can change the situation. It's going to suck. It's going to be hard. I was 28, nowhere where I wanted to be, or 27 at the time, I guess.
And you knew you had stuff to do, and it was time to hit the eject button and get on with it.
Yes. People had been talking about my blessed potential for so long. I was ready to show them they were right. And stop proving everybody wrong and start proving them right. So that was it. And that's all it took. I had now I think it's kind of famed conversation with Brad and I's friend Kaveh. I met with him and he's like, why are you breaking up with this guy? Because he had just gone through a big breakup too. And I said, I'm drowning. This is part of it. Not that he's a bad guy. This just isn't right for me. And I have lots to do. And he goes, oh, well, this is where the rubber meets the road, Kate. Because if you leave him, you go home and nothing happens, then we know what the real issue was. And that was his nice way of saying I was the issue.
That's such a great, match under your butt, man.
Oh, and that was it. The rubber was meeting the road. So that was kind of the conversation that started
I love that you went home for a season. Can I just kind of interject that? I love that you took a season to heal. And I think it's so cool that we're now recording this podcast literally as you're moving back out.
I'm moving.
Yes. It's so exciting.
It's so perfect.
You've had your season of healing and recalibration, and you're relaunching yourself.
I am. Yes.
Awesomeness.
I'm sitting in the dining room of Brad and I's house together. My sister also needs that season of healing, so she's moving in too. And it's just remarkable. I mean, it really, and so for any of you who really felt it while we were talking about the despair that can be out there, the despair you can suddenly feel. I didn't realize it. Claudio, I shouldn't have said names again, but Claudio actually told me, right? He actually told me, yeah, obviously you're depressed. How are you not seeing this? And I didn't because I was so far in it. If you're too far in it to see it,
behind you.
Yes.
And puts his hand over your mouth and you're like, I don't
even know. So if that struck a chord with you, I think HollyAnne's right. You got to look at now. It's a lot of hard work. I am nowhere near where I want it to be. I think any of us creative women are like that, but gosh, I mean, out of the gate.
And life is a series of launches, right?
Oh,
so it's not like, I think the big social media myth, the big myth that social media likes to put in us is that you launch, you succeed, and then it's like a highlight reel for the rest of your life. And it's not. One of the quotes I think it was you, Kate, who put this up for the CW, you put up this quote that flowers that bloom in a season. They don't bloom, 24/7 all year round. And as creative women like that, there's a reason when we put a new product out or something like that, we call it a launch, because life is this season of like resting and relaunching. And you're never a finished product, and you're never a highlight reel. And it's just every bit of that is a step forward. And that's where, we mentioned the difference between bailing and pivoting. And I think that's what a pivot is when you can recognize that there's breaths of resting and launching in your life.
Absolutely. And there's, it was instant. You guys are amazing. I always say that. And that's because now you see why. Like, you saw the depths of which the CWL started. That started in the depths of my soul. The darkest part of my soul is where the CWL started. And it's just like this pretty little flower that rooted up out of there. So when instantly Melody Miller said she'd be on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, Melody Miller.
Instantly. I didn't even have anything yet.
Episode. You know what? That's the episode I listened to, Kate. That was the one. That was the first one I listened to because I saw Melody's name and was like, I have to listen to this.
And she was so giving. She said, no, I'm willing to tell a deeper part of my story than I've ever told before. So I was crapping my pants.
Yeah.
And instantly people started turning to me and saying, hey, I'm going through a hard time. I really need this. Thank you. And so that's what you can birth out of that dark part of these things. And it was Megan Buchanan from Then Came June. She's the one who said,
oh my gosh, I love her.
Yeah, it was nothing in nature blooms all year long, so don't expect to either. And that was, I get chills when I say it because you got to remember those things. So
I've been chewing on that a lot lately. That's part of why it came to mind, is because I also feel that like pressure to like constantly be great, or at least constantly be good and be striving for great and trying to figure out what does that mean, for me, like that, to have those seasons of rest. And even, look at Melody now with how Cotton and Steel and those original 5 designers, they're resting and relaunching, and they're entering their own new season.
Yeah. Pinup Girl Clothing. We had Laura Burns from Pinup Girl Clothing. They're closing their stores, and she always wanted a brick and mortar store. She has to close her store and relaunch and figure out where she's going from there. But she could see it as a failure and close this business that means so much to everybody, or she can pivot. She can bail or she can pivot. And did you interview
Stacey over at Gingerbread?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because she did that too. The exact
she
same
did that
thing.
too.
Close the brick and mortar and figure out how to pivot and relaunch. And and she's rocking it.
I love
Call her to Stacey.
I love it. And now you guys have let me ramble about my own life. Like, I cried for y'all. It's just like,
I love it.
It's amazing.
Okay. And just, there's so much, richness from your story that's breathed into the CWL. And I love that you are willing to just pull the curtain back and let us see just I'm trying to think of like a non-gross metaphor, and I don't have one, but just the way that the CWL has like marinated in your soul. There we go. That's not too gross.
I've
had 2 kids, so I have all kinds of gross metaphors.
Oh, awesome. Are we talking womb metaphors? Are we talking wombs and uteruses?
Oh. One more person asked me about my womb. Oh.
But yes.
Don't even get me going down that.
No wombs, but
no wombs.
But it is interesting. Marinating. I didn't even really think about it till you started. You're a great interviewer, Holly, and you should, you're great at it. But I didn't even think about it until we started talking about it. And it really does. It's just like my big thing. At the beginning of the year, people were setting all their intentions, and somebody said, and really, actually, I should save it till the 3 CWL musts. I just realized, because it's probably
I'm getting you there.
It's probably my thing. But I just realized in my life, I'm going to be brave. For the first time in my life, I'm going to start being brave. I'm going to tell people the value I can bring to things. I'm going to bring that value. I'm going to be a great, community leader. I'm going to be a great employee. I'm back at a salon now. I'm going to be a great employee. I'm going to be a great person and do lots of things for people, but I'm not going to be afraid to tell somebody like, oh no, I can kick ass at that for you. I can.
Yeah.
So I think that's big.
Did you see the TED Talk excerpt that I posted on my personal Facebook this week about being brave?
I think I stole it from you and posted it everywhere.
Did you? Okay. So I
Yeah.
was just saying, if you have not posted that, it would be very relevant to this, and either you or I could post it on the CWL.
We'll go put it in the group.
Already.
Yeah, I think I put it on the CWL page, but we'll go put it in the group too. Tomorrow when later this week when this launches. But yeah.
It like freaking punched me in the gut when I saw that video about how women so much in our society are encouraged to be compliant versus brave.
Yeah.
And just the power that's in our bravery as women. And girl, I'm cheering for you so hard. And Kate is like my girl that's always got my back. And Kate, I hope I always have your back. That's always my goal.
Well, and I always say that you and I are like the perfect vision of like what I wanted for the CWL. Like you were like, hey, this is cool. I'm going to start talking to you. And I was like, this is great. Start texting me. And we just become like cheerleaders for each other, friends for each other. I mean, honestly, there are times
I just always picture us like standing back to back, like in a battlefield. And I'm like, I got this side, you got that side. Like, we're always just like back to back facing life. Like,
yes, and there are times where I swear that I would drive right up to outside of Atlanta for you, and sometimes I'm like, oh man, I better calm HollyAnne down, or she'll be down here to help me through this in 2 seconds. Like,
it's probably a good thing that you live just far enough away that that's not actually super feasible. Actually. Because I totally would.
Yeah.
I totally, if I can figure out how to get you up here, I'm going to. For the record.
Perfect. I love it.
Because I'm not moving back to Florida. Sorry, babe. I already did that. Okay. But
we just gotta wait for Jade to grow up, and then we'll be off and doing other things. That Jade keeps us here. That's my boyfriend's daughter, who I love so much. But yeah. But yeah, that's
okay.
it.
Jade's a good reason. So really what needs to happen is we just need to be like brave and big and great, and then we'll just fly back and forth, and it'll be fine.
That's perfect.
That's really what needs to happen. Okay.
That's perfect.
So CWL must, because we could do this all night. But I'm going to...
The musts. We got to do them.
All right. So... CWL must. I'm going to just take you through one at a time. First, what is one thing every badass woman should read, watch, or listen to?
Okay, so
Post-haste.
when I was at the salon, I heard an episode of the Social Media Marketing Podcast with Seth Godin.
That's a great podcast.
Yes.
That's a great podcast.
And this episode of Seth Godin, I think, has been like archived at this point. You can look it up. I'll find it. But he was talking about his latest book, The Icarus Deception. How high will you fly? Yes.
There's another interview with him on that same topic that I'm not, maybe it was that same.
Look up Seth Godin and listen to, and I mean, he also has a book called Tribes. You should read that if you're starting a tribe. You know, we all are with social media. Seth Godin he was kind of, I feel like he's one of the people who lit a spark. Oh, my sister's pulling up right now.
Okay.
So, we
might have
there might be interruptions because we talked so long.
That's okay. This is real life, guys. It's real life.
So Icarus Deception by Seth Godin.
Yes, you should find that immediately. Who is one woman we should all go follow right now?
So everybody should go follow Andrea Savage. She has
I don't know if I follow her.
Oh my gosh. She's a comedian. She does the show I'm Sorry. And it is the funniest show because she is a capable woman running a family. She's not like a fumbling, dumb woman like some of these things, or like she's so socially awkward or awful. No, she's like a funny, real, awesome comedian woman writing this funny, awesome, real show. And Andrea Savage is awesome. So she's just Andrea Savage on Instagram.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to find her. I'm so excited. All right, finally, what is one mantra, quote, or affirmation that you lean on often?
Okay, so
and my phone number does not count, Kate.
Okay, so something that used to get me through, and it wasn't very nice, the original version of it. But I change it for every scenario. I think it was a manager. Somebody at the coffee shop used to always say, I'd be like, oh, I can't do that, right? Because I always had 1,000 can'ts. And they'd say, dumber people than you have done it. So it's not nice, but now I use it all the time.
That's so great.
It is, because honestly, not every millionaire is a genius. They aren't. People who have had successful things, they aren't geniuses. And now I use it for everything. So if I hear myself say, I don't have enough time to do that, I quickly rebut it with, people with a lot less time than you have done it.
I love that.
I just change it for every scenario. Sometimes you do need to remember that people that are dumb, when I'm trying to learn how to put together a website.
Kim, who you recently interviewed, shared this fantastic meme in her Instagram stories recently that was, girlfriend, don't you ever let anyone treat you like the free salsa. You are guac, girl. Guac.
Yes.
And it's not like, sometimes you just need to remember, like, salsa people have done this, and I am guac.
Salsa people
clearly.
That's perfect. Salsa people have done this. They have done it well. They have done great jobs at it. I can do this. I can do it.
I am freaking guac.
The one that I was hinting at earlier, too, was when people were setting their intentions earlier this year, somebody said, and I don't remember who it was now, but they said, less hesitation, more leaping. And that is absolutely what I'm trying to do in my life. Because you guys have heard, I hesitated a lot. So
I love that.
That's it.
I love it.
I think I did this.
Hey, this has been fantastic. You are fantastic. I love that you left, because if you had not left into this, then we would not be friends. That alone would be a tragedy. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm so thankful that we had this time.
So a little behind the scenes.
CWL.
Yes. And a little behind the scenes on this. Everybody who I interview always says, I did not expect to talk about that. Or they'll say, oh man. Like the next day they'll message me. I tell people now about the sharing hangover, the day after. Yes. The day after
Girl, you know what? I'm now really glad that this is going live super quick, because I'm going to challenge you to post this before the scheduling or the sharing.
Yes,
hangover.
The sharing hangover. So I'm trying to get rid of that. So now I get it. It's good to be on the other side of it. So thank you so much, HollyAnne. I appreciate you
you're so
much. So where you guys can follow me is go follow me at Creative Women's League on Instagram. I want you all to join the Facebook group, because HollyAnne and I are in there. Creative Women's League.
And it's a party.
It's a party.
Also, you made it pink in there, and that totally blew my mind the first time I saw it, and then I went and changed my shirt to orange.
Yeah,
but
you can
I was
change
like,
them.
what magical juju is this? And then I realized there's a setting for it. But congrats on that.
And then go follow. So my sister's home. Everybody's got to eat. We're wrapping this life up. I love it. But you have to go follow HollyAnne, because we've talked about her on a million things now. She's my bestie from the CWL. So go follow her on String and Story, because she's amazing.
Aw, thanks. And this is totally up to you if you want to include this, but I do still have that business creative women resource on my blog.
Yes, perfect.
So some of the stuff we've talked about is on there. I feel like I need to add to it after this, which maybe I will.
And and you did a Friday Friends with me. We should link to that.
I did do a Friday Friends with you.
People can overload on Kate.
They really should.
Thank you so much, HollyAnne. I appreciate you so much.
You are so welcome, and have a good dinner.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to go eat. Bye.
Okay, bye.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.